Welcome back to where every old coin has a story and some rare coins can be worth far more than their face value. Today, we're taking a closer look at the fascinating 1925 Mercury Dime and exploring its history, rarity, collector demand, and potential value in the 2026 market. Top 6 coins. Stay with us until the end, because you won't want to miss the important details about this historic silver dime. Let's get started. First coin. In this video, we are looking at the United States one-dime Mercury Dime dated 1925, specifically the example with the S mint mark from the San Francisco Mint. One important correction before we begin: there was no W mint mark on a 1925 Mercury Dime. The 1925 Mercury Dime was produced at Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with a D mint mark, and San Francisco with an S mint mark. So if your coin appears to have a W, it is worth taking a very close look because the mark may be damaged, misread, or altered. The Mercury Dime is officially known as the Winged Liberty Head Dime and was designed by famous American sculptor Adolph A. Weinman. The series was struck from 1916 through 1945 and became one of the most recognizable silver dime designs in American coinage. The 1925 issue belongs to an important period of the series, when these small silver coins were being used in everyday American commerce. The 1925 S had a reported mintage of only 5,850,000 pieces, considerably fewer than the 25,610,000 Philadelphia examples made that year. The obverse features Liberty wearing a winged cap, which is commonly mistaken for the Roman god Mercury, and explains the popular name Mercury Dime. Around Liberty are the inscriptions Liberty, in God we trust, and the date 1925. On the reverse, we see a Roman-style fasces surrounded by an olive branch, with United States of America and one dime completing the design. The coin is composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, measures approximately 17.9 millimeters across, and weighs about 2.5 grams. On a genuine 1925 S Mercury Dime, the mint mark is a small S on the reverse, near the bottom beside the fasces. The 1925 S is not the rarest Mercury Dime ever made, but its relatively low production and age make it an interesting collectible. Only 5,850,000 were struck at San Francisco, and many surviving examples have experienced decades of circulation. When a coin is heavily worn or damaged, collectors generally pay much less than they would for a sharply detailed example. However, higher-grade pieces can become significantly more desirable, especially when the coin has strong original surfaces, attractive detail, and well-preserved reverse bands. Collectors also pay close attention to full bands or full split bands on the fasces, because fully separated bands can add a substantial premium in the right. For 2026, a circulated 1925 S Mercury Dime is generally a modestly priced collectible rather than automatically being a fortune maker. Current published market references show approximately across grades from heavily worn examples through XF45, while higher grade pieces can rise into the $860,000s of dollars. These are guide values, not guaranteed auction results, and the actual price can vary according to grade, appeal, certification, provenance, and buyer demand. If you have a 1925 Mercury Dime, the first thing to do is carefully inspect the date and mint mark. Remember that a genuine 1925 S should show an S, not a W. Never clean or polish an old silver coin, because cleaning can damage its original surface and reduce collector appeal. Look closely at Liberty's facial and hair details, the lettering, the date, and especially the reverse fasces. If your coin appears unusually sharp or has exceptionally clear bands, professional grading may be worth considering. For valuable pieces, compare several reputable market sources and recent auction results rather than relying on a single online price estimate. The 1925 Mercury Dime is a beautiful piece of American history, and the San Francisco 1925s variety is particularly interesting because of its relatively low mintage and strong collector following. But if you believe you have a 1925 Mercury Dime with a W mint mark, stop before assuming it is a rare variety. The official 1925 issues did not use a W mint mark. Examine the coin carefully, verify its authenticity and mint mark, and remember that condition is one of the biggest factors determining its market value. A worn example may be worth only a modest amount, while a scarce, exceptionally preserved, properly authenticated example can attract much stronger collector interest. Next up today, we are looking at a legendary early Mercury Dime dated 1921, a coin that can attract serious collector attention because of its low production and its place in one of the most important periods of the Mercury Dime series. But before we begin, there is one very important detail to clarify. A genuine 1921 Mercury Dime was not struck with a W mint mark. The 1921 Mercury Dimes were produced at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with the Denver and San Francisco issues carrying D and S mint marks. So if you have a coin described as a 1921 W Mercury Dime, check the mint mark carefully, because it may have been misread, altered, or incorrectly identified. The Mercury Dime was introduced in 1916 and was designed by the famous American sculptor Adolph A. Weinman. The obverse shows Liberty wearing a winged cap, which is why collectors commonly call this coin the Mercury Dime, even though the figure officially represents Liberty rather than the Roman god Mercury. The reverse features a fasces surrounded by olive branches, representing strength, unity, and peace. By 1921, the series was only a few years old, but economic conditions had changed dramatically after the First World War. Demand for new coinage became much weaker, and the mint produced relatively small quantities of Mercury Dimes that year. The 1921 Mercury Dime is especially interesting because of its distinctive early series design and low mintage. The coin is made of 90% silver and has the classic reeded edge associated with the denomination. It weighs approximately 2.5 grams and measures about 17.8 millimeters across. One of the easiest ways to identify the coin is to examine the date carefully. The 1921 Philadelphia issue has no mint mark, while the Denver issue carries a small D, and the San Francisco issue carries an S. These tiny letters can make a major difference to collectors because mint location is an important part of the coin's identity. The 1921 issues are among the better-known scarce dates in the Mercury Dime series. The Denver issue is particularly famous, with only 1,080,000 pieces struck, making it the second lowest mintage of the entire Mercury Dime series according to NGC. The Denver issue is also known for being difficult to find in high grades, while the Philadelphia issue had a mintage of 1,230,000. This combination of low production, age, silver composition, and strong collector interest gives the 1921 Mercury Dime an important position in the series. Collectors building complete Mercury Dime sets often need a 1921 example, and genuinely attractive pieces can receive strong competition when they appear at major auctions. For a genuine 1921 D Mercury Dime in fine condition, the NGC price guide information available in 2026 places the coin at approximately. Although an actual sell for 850,000's price can be higher or lower depending on certification, eye appeal, surface quality, originality, and the strength of the auction bidding. NGC also shows substantially higher prices for exceptional uncirculated examples, demonstrating how dramatically condition can affect this date. Remember that this figure applies to the 1921 D variety, not a supposed 1921 W coin. If your coin truly appears to have a W mint mark, it should be examined carefully by an experienced numismatist or professional grading service before assigning it a value. If you discover a 1921 Mercury Dime Do not clean it, polish it, or attempt to improve its appearance with chemicals. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and reduce collector appeal. Instead, inspect the date, mint mark, edge, lettering, and overall surface under good lighting. Pay particular attention to signs of alteration, because valuable old coins can sometimes be manipulated to imitate rarer dates or mint marks. If the coin appears unusually sharp or valuable, professional authentication and grading can provide important protection for both the buyer and seller. The 1921 Mercury Dime is a fascinating piece of American numismatic history, and its low production makes it one of the dates that collectors pay close attention to. Its beautiful Weinman design, silver composition, early series history, and scarcity create a combination that continues to make the coin desirable more than a century after it was struck. Most importantly, remember that there is no recognized 1921 W Mercury Dime mint issue, so always verify the mint mark before believing a dramatic valuation. If your coin is actually a 1921 D, especially in a strong condition, it may deserve a much closer look. Next up. Today, we are looking at the fascinating 1917 Mercury Dime, one of the earliest issues of the famous winged Liberty Head Dime series. Before we go further, there is one important detail to clarify. Official U.S. Mint records for 1917 Mercury Dimes show Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with a D mint mark, and San Francisco with an S mint mark. There was no W mint mark used for a 1917 Mercury Dime. So if your coin appears to have a W, it is important to examine that mark carefully because it may be another letter, damage, or a feature of the design. The 1917 D and 1917 S issues are particularly interesting to collectors because of their lower production compared with the Philadelphia issue, X. The Mercury Dime was introduced in 1916 and was designed by the celebrated American sculptor Adolph A. Weinman. Despite its popular nickname, the figure on the obverse is generally understood as Liberty wearing a winged Phrygian cap, symbolizing freedom of thought. The reverse features a fasces, an olive branch, and other classical imagery representing strength, unity, and peace. In 1917, the United States was entering an important period in its history, and these small silver coins were circulating through everyday American commerce. The 1917 Mercury Dime was struck in 90% silver and 10% copper, with a diameter of approximately 17.9 millimeters and a weight of 2.5 grams. The 1917 Philadelphia issue had a large mintage of about 55.23 million pieces, while the Denver issue had a much smaller mintage of 9.402 million, and San Francisco produced about 27.33 million. That difference is one reason collectors pay particular attention to the mint mark when examining a 1917 Mercury Dime. The 1917 D is especially recognized as a semi-key date in circulated grades and becomes considerably more difficult to find as the condition improves. The obverse of the 1917 Mercury Dime displays Liberty facing left, wearing the distinctive winged cap. Around her are the inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 1917. The reverse carries the word United States of America, the denomination 1 dime, and the classical fasces design surrounded by an olive branch. The coin has a reeded edge, a feature that helped distinguish it from many other types of currency of its period. These details make the Mercury Dime instantly recognizable and highly popular among American coin collectors. For anyone examining a supposed 1917 W Mercury Dime, the mint mark question is extremely important. A genuine 1917 Mercury Dime should not have a W mint mark. The 1917 D has its D mint mark associated with the Denver issue, while the S identifies the San Francisco issue, and Philadelphia coins have no mint mark. Therefore, a coin advertised as a 1917 W Mercury Dime, should be authenticated before any claim of extraordinary rarity or value is made. The 1917 Mercury Dime is more than just an old silver coin. Collectors are interested in the date, mint, condition, strike quality, original surfaces, and preservation of important design details. The 1917 D stands out because only about 9.4 million were struck, dramatically fewer than the Philadelphia issue. PCGS describes the 1917 D as a semi-K date in circulated grades and notes, that it becomes rare in mint state and very rare in gem condition. High-grade examples can become particularly desirable when the horizontal bands on the reverse fasces are sharply defined. Coins receiving the full bands designation can command substantially stronger prices because collectors compete for exceptional examples. The PCGS auction record for a 1917 D Mercury Dime with full bands reached, demonstrating how dramatically condition and strike quality can affect the market. As of 2026, a normal circulated 1917 D Mercury Dime in fine condition is generally a modestly priced collectible rather than a guaranteed fortune. Current published market guides place a fine example around for sale $760,000. PCGS's guide similarly shows substantially higher levels as the coin moves into mint state. Exceptional full bands examples can reach much more at auction, with the documented 1917 D MS67 FB record standing. These figures show why the exact mint mark, grade, originality, and certification matter so much. If you have a 1917 Mercury Dime, start by examining it under good lighting and a magnifying glass. Look closely at the date, the mint mark area, the lettering, the winged Liberty design, and the reverse fasces. Do not clean the coin, polish it, or use chemicals to make it appear brighter. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surfaces and may reduce collector appeal. If you believe your coin has an unusual mint mark appearance or an important error, professional authentication can be worthwhile before selling it. Condition is also extremely important. A worn fine coin and a beautifully preserved mint state example may look like the same date at first glance, but the collector market can treat them very differently. For a potentially valuable 1917 D, professional grading and certification from a respected grading service can provide authentication and an independent condition assessment. Remember that auction records are for specific coins in specific grades, and should not be treated as guaranteed prices for every example. The 1917 Mercury Dime remains an exciting piece of American numismatic history, especially because it comes from the early years of one of the most beloved U.S. dime designs. Its 90% silver composition, historic design, early date, and different mint issues make it an excellent coin for collectors to study. But remember the most important point from today's video. There was no official 1917 W Mercury Dime. If your coin appears to have a W, don't assume it is automatically rare or extremely valuable. Have the marking examined carefully. Determine whether it is actually a D, S, or no mint mark, and consider professional authentication if the coin appears unusual. A genuine 1917 Mercury Dime can certainly be an attractive and collectible piece, and the right combination of date, mint, condition, strike, and preservation can make these historic silver dimes much more desirable in the collector market. Next up. Today, we are looking closely at the United States one-dime Mercury Dime dated 1941, especially a coin described as having a W mark and being in fine condition. Before we talk about rarity and value, there is one very important detail to understand. The 1941 Mercury Dime was struck at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with mint marks of no mint mark, D, and S. There was no W mint mark for the 1941 Mercury Dime. The W that collectors sometimes notice is actually the designer Adolf A. Weinmann's initials, found on the obverse near the bottom of the design. So if your coin appears to have a W, do not automatically assume it is a W mint mark. That small detail can make a big difference when identifying the coin correctly. The Mercury Dime was one of the most beautiful designs ever placed on a United States dime. Designed by sculptor Adolf A. Weinmann, the series was introduced in 1916 and continued through 1945. Although officially known as the Winged Liberty Head Dime, collectors commonly call it the Mercury Dime because Liberty's winged cap was sometimes mistaken for the Roman god Mercury. By 1941, the design had already become a familiar part of American coinage. The United States was entering a dramatic period in history, and silver coins such as the Mercury Dime circulated widely in everyday commerce. The 1941 issue, therefore, represents not only an old silver coin, but also a small piece of the American story immediately before and during the early years of World War II. On the front of the coin, Liberty faces left wearing the famous winged cap. The word Liberty appears prominently across the upper portion, while the inscriptions "In God We Trust" and the date 1941 complete the design. Near the lower area of the obverse, you may see the small AW initials of Adolf A. Weinmann. This is particularly important for anyone searching for a supposed 1941 W mint mark. The reverse shows a Roman fasces surrounded by an olive branch, with United States of America, 1 dime, and EPLURIBUSUNUM completing the powerful design. The coin is composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, weighs approximately 2.5 grams, and has a diameter of about 17.9 millimeters. Its reeded edge is another useful identification feature. These characteristics make the Mercury Dime instantly recognizable to experienced collectors. Now let us talk about rarity. A 1941 Mercury Dime is old, historic, and made from silver, but the date by itself does not make every example extremely rare. In fact, the 1941 D issue had a substantial mintage of 45,634,000 pieces, and NGC describes the issue as common in circulated grades. This is an important point because internet videos sometimes suggest that every old Mercury Dime is automatically worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. That is not how the professional coin market works. Value depends heavily on the exact mint mark, condition, strike quality, surface preservation, varieties, and professional certification. For a coin in fine condition, collectors should pay close attention to the amount of wear and the remaining detail. On a genuine fine example, major design elements should still be clearly visible, but the highest points of Liberty's hair and winged cap will show noticeable wear. On the reverse, the fasces and olive branch should remain identifiable, although many finer details will have softened from circulation. Original surfaces, natural color, and freedom from harsh cleaning can make a circulated Mercury Dime much more attractive. Collectors also examine the date, mint mark area, lettering, rims, and overall appearance for signs of damage or alteration. The collector demand for Mercury Dimes remains strong because the series combines several desirable qualities. It is an early 20th century American silver series. It has an iconic design, and it contains many interesting dates, mint marks, and varieties. The 1941 date is also historically significant because it belongs to the final years of the series and the period surrounding America's entry into World War II. Variety collectors may also be interested in double die or repunch mint mark examples. NGC notes that 1941 D Mercury Dimes are known for double die and repunch mint mark varieties, although many of these are subtle. A clearly identifiable and desirable variety can attract much stronger collector attention than an ordinary example. When it comes to the 2026 market, remember that there is no single price that applies to every 1941 Mercury Dime. Condition, mint mark, certification, eye appeal and variety can change the market substantially. For an ordinary circulated 1941 Mercury Dime, current NGC guidance places circulated examples in the single-digit dollar range, while exceptional uncirculated pieces can reach much higher levels. NGC's current information shows that pristine examples can command $540,000, demonstrating how dramatically condition can affect this otherwise common date. If you have a 1941 Mercury Dime that you believe carries a W, the first step is not to clean it, polish it, or assume that the W makes it a rare mint-marked coin. Instead, inspect the coin carefully with good lighting and magnification. Determine whether the mark is actually the designer's or initials. Then check whether there is a D or S mint mark near the bottom of the reverse. If there is no D or S, it is generally a Philadelphia issue. If you suspect an unusual variety, compare the coin with reliable numismatic references or have it examined by a professional. Never remove natural tunning simply because you think a brighter coin will be worth more. Cleaning can permanently damage collectible surfaces and may reduce desirability. So, what should collectors remember about this fascinating 1941 Mercury Dime? The biggest lesson is that identification comes before valuation. A coin advertised as a 1941 W Mercury Dime deserves careful examination because there was no W mint mark on the 1941 Mercury Dime. The W you see is most likely connected to Weinman's initials rather than a mint facility. The 2026 value of a normal fine condition example is generally modest compared with the spectacular prices sometimes claimed online, while exceptional condition, recognized varieties, and professionally certified coins can bring substantially stronger prices. The 1941 Mercury Dime may look like a small 10-cent piece, but it carries decades of American history in its silver, design, and worn surfaces. Every scratch and every softened detail tells us that the coin was once part of everyday commerce. For collectors, that history is part of the attraction. Whether your example is a common circulated coin or an unusually preserved variety, learning how to identify it correctly is the first step toward understanding its true place in the numismatic market. Next up today, we are taking a close look at the United States one-dime Mercury Dime dated 1931 with the S mint mark, specifically an example in fine condition. At first glance, this may look like an ordinary old 10-cent coin, but the 1931 S Mercury Dime has an important place in the series because only 1,800,000 examples were struck at the San Francisco Mint. That relatively low production makes this date especially interesting to collectors. And while a circulated fine example is not normally worth thousands of dollars, exceptional high-grade examples can bring dramatically higher prices at auction. The Mercury Dime was introduced in 1916 and became one of America's most recognizable silver coin designs. Although collectors commonly call it the Mercury Dime, the obverse actually depicts Liberty wearing a winged cap. The reverse features a fasces, an olive branch, and the words United States of America. The 1931 S was produced during the difficult economic period of the Great Depression. According to PCGS auction records, the economic conditions of the period contributed to reduced demand for coinage, helping explain the unusually low mintage of this San Francisco issue. In fact, the 1931 S was the final San Francisco Mint Mercury Dime, struck before the series resumed with an S Mint dime in 1935. The 1931 S Mercury Dime is a 10-cent United States coin made from the traditional silver composition used for Mercury Dimes. Its obverse shows Liberty facing left, wearing a winged cap, with the date 1931 positioned near the lower edge. On the reverse, the fasces is surrounded by an olive branch, with the denomination represented by 1 dime. The small S mint mark identifies the San Francisco Mint. When examining a circulated example, collectors should pay particular attention to the date, mint mark, major design details, surface condition, and signs of cleaning or damage. On a fine condition coin, moderate wear is expected, but the important features should remain clearly identifiable. The biggest attraction of the 1931S is its low mintage of just 1.8 million pieces. That number is substantially lower than many other Mercury Dime issues, and surviving examples are sought after by collectors building complete date and mint collections. The coin becomes especially interesting in higher grades, and with the coveted full bands designation, which indicates strong separation on the horizontal bands of the fasces. PCGS auction records demonstrate just how dramatically condition can change the value. Now let's talk about the value, but remember that condition is extremely important. For 2026, current PCGS pricing information places ordinary 1931S Mercury Dimes in substantially lower ranges than the spectacular auction results seen for elite mint state pieces. A fine condition 1931S is generally a modestly priced collectible rather than a coin automatically worth $870,000. The exact amount depends on grading accuracy, eye appeal, surfaces, and the marketplace where it is sold. PCGS's current guide lists substantially higher values for mint state and full bands examples, with the top-end full bands category reaching in its price guide. This is why collectors should never assume that every 1931S Mercury Dime is a fortune maker. The truly spectacular prices belong to exceptionally preserved and professionally graded examples. If you own a 1931S Mercury Dime, handle it carefully and avoid cleaning or polishing it. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surfaces and may reduce collector appeal. Use the mint mark, date, overall wear, and surface quality to identify your coin, and compare it with professionally graded examples before making a value judgment. If your coin appears unusually sharp or well-preserved, professional authentication and grading may be worth considering. Most importantly, remember that an auction price is not a guaranteed value for every coin. A spectacular MS-67 full band specimen and a circulated fine condition specimen can have completely different market values, even though they carry exactly the same date and mint mark. The 1931S Mercury Dime is a fascinating piece of American history and an important date for Mercury Dime collectors. Its low mintage of only 1.8 million coins, connection to the Great Depression era, attractive winged Liberty design, and scarcity in exceptional grades give it lasting collector interest. A fine condition example should be viewed realistically, but the series shows how dramatically rarity, preservation, strike quality, and certification can affect value. So if you discover a 1931S Mercury Dime in an old collection, coin album, or inherited group of coins, don't overlook it. Check the date, confirm that tiny S mint mark, examine the condition carefully, and remember that the real excitement in numismatics often comes from discovering exactly what makes one old coin different from another. Thanks for watching Coinsworth TV. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more rare coins, valuable coins, and fascinating U.S. coin discoveries. Happy collecting. Sparkles.